We're still more than 2 months out from the Iowa caucus, and as we've seen before, a lot can change in 2 months. Joining me now is MSNBC national political reporter Steve Kornacki. So, Steve, on the subject of peaking, when is the best time to peak?
Now, this is the big question, certainly, in politics, because you look right now, and Buttigieg is on the rise, and his campaign would certainly like to believe that number is going to keep going up, and he's going to run away with the nomination. But we have seen more than a few cases in the past where the candidate who is on the rise in November, on the rise in December, ends up an afterthought when the voting actually begins. So this is the Democratic race right now. This is the new national poll from Quinnipiac yesterday. Let's look back at the last time there was sort of a wide-open, jumbled field on the Democratic side, and when Democrats were trying to come up with a candidate to take out a Republican president. This was back in 2004. George W. Bush was the president. The Iraq War. Democrats had a pretty wide open primary that year. This is what the national poll looks like in this race right now. This is what it looked like, this same poll at this same point in 2003. The front runner was Howard Dean. Howard Dean he won his home state of Vermont. He won nothing else. Joe Lieberman was in second place. Joe Lieberman's biggest claim to fame in the 2004 race ended up being when he said he got a three-way tie for third place in New Hampshire, but he was running in second place at this point. The actual nominee in 2004 was all the way back in single digits. John Kerry back at 8% at this point in 2004. The guy who came in second place that year, John Edwards, was all the way back at 5%. So again, this speaks to how fluid and wide open these races can be. You see the same thing in the early states. This is the new New Hampshire poll out this week. Wow, talk about wide open. 4 candidates within 4% of each other. First place at only 16%. But again, how much can change? Same poll, Boston Globe poll. This point in that 2004 cycle, this is what New Hampshire looked like. Of course, in the end, John Kerry ended up beating Howard Dean by 10 points. What happened in 2004? Well, Iowa happened. John Kerry surged very late in Iowa. Final days of that campaign, won the Iowa caucuses. And when that happened, his number surged in New Hampshire. His number surged in the South. His number surged everywhere. He ended up winning the nomination easily. But you never would have guessed it looking at the polls in November.
I've always said that our plan is to grow and grow and grow and then peak at the right time. And we're going to peak when the voting starts.
You're going to see us outperform the other campaigns and shock the world.
Most early state voters have not made up their minds. Even if they say they're voting for a particular candidate, they say they're open to changing their mind. And so we are right on schedule. You've seen us keep gaining in the polls despite spending minimally on advertising until very, very recently. And thanks to the Yang Gang, we actually are one of the few campaigns that can put real resources to work in the early states. So everything is going exactly as we'd hoped. We're growing and growing and growing, both organically and soon with advertising support.
One poll came out that said that I was one of the only candidates in the field that 10% or more of Donald Trump voters say they would support in the general. And the number one criteria that Democrats have for the nominee is beating Donald Trump. So when Dems realize that they have a candidate who can peel off hundreds of thousands of Trump voters and is one of the surest bets to beat him in 2020, that's when you'll see our poll numbers just climb and climb.
Do you think you're going to be the Democratic nominee?
Yeah, 100%.
What doubts do you have?
We have all of the pieces in place, and we've been doing everything on a shoestring this whole time. We're about to pour gas on the fire that is the Yang Gang.
Put the money in our hands. 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 Can we afford it? Yes. Will it cause inflation? No. Is it awesome? Yes. Is anyone trying to make it happen? Yeah, that guy.